Hello, thank you everyone for joining us and welcome to the ICS Webinar Series on all things Amwin related. In our webinar series, we'll cover everything from what's new in the software, like the new version 10, to what's coming in the future, as well as demonstrate some of Amwin's more unknown and underused features that could easily benefit your business. Please keep this checklist handy, and as you hear about topics you'd like more info on, mark it on the checklist and send it back to our wonderful support team. The idea is we are going to demonstrate to you a lot of new and underused features in Amwin quite quickly. So if you have any questions or you're interested in learning more about anything you see, remember to ask one of our team later or tick the checkbox on the form. Send it back to us and we'll send you help documents or organise some hotline support or training even. Everything we go over in the series will be available for download on the ICS website. We'll show you more on all of that later, but all these videos, the slides, as well as the manuals and slide references can be downloaded from our website. Throughout the webinar series, you are going to meet our ICS team. My name is John. I started International Computer Service in 1985, now 36 years ago, and I retired 10 years ago after my first back surgery. However, to this day I'm still trying to retire, and I still help the team with sales and do conversions of data from other programs to Amwin. James is my son, and he took over the reins of ICS nearly 10 years ago now, after my first back surgery. He's done a few things before ICS. He studied engineering. He did an electrical apprenticeship working for his brother, where he actually implemented Amwin into that business. So he was pretty familiar with Amwin, even before he took over ICS. He does a bit of everything in the business now, juggling everything as most small business owners do. Next we have Carl, our head support technician. I'm sure most of you know Carl, or at least his voice. If you've called ICS in the past 2 decades, then you would have spoken to Carl. He's our expert on all things Amwin and computer or network related. When it comes to computers, there isn't much that Carl doesn't know. And then we also have Tim, our newest staff member. Though not so new anymore, as I'm sure many of you who have spoken to him on the phone or in person have gotten to know him. Tim is learning to take over from my role in sales, but to do that, he's got to learn all the ins and outs of Amwin, which he is learning very quickly, and there is no better place to learn all about Amwin than from answering all the obscure questions we get from our lovely customers. Carl and James have taught him a lot, and there isn't much he doesn't know about Amwin software. Okay, so now that you've met everyone, James is going to take over and start our first webinar by talking about some of the new things in Amwin software. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is James. I am going to show you Amwin's latest version, version 10, and walk you through some of the new features we've added. One of the first things we'll look at is the new menus and toolbar in Amwin version 10. When Windows 10 initially came out, it caused a lot of issues for us and the version 9 of Amwin we had out at the time. As with any new software release, even when it's released by a corporation as big as Windows, there are teething problems, like bugs and new features that don't work properly or new features that make old features not work anymore. For example, our main help menu inside of Amwin version 9 stopped working when Windows 10 came out. You just got a blank menu unless you did this little workaround we figured out eventually. However, the workaround wasn't perfect and was a pain to set up, so we finally decided it was time to not only change our whole menu system, but our whole Amwin version 9 programming language, called Clarion, to its latest version, which was also version 10. This is also one of the reasons for the development of the new help website, AM Online, but we'll talk more about that later in the series. With the upgrade to the programming language came a lot of new features and abilities for our programmers to use, which we've incorporated into Amwin version 10. So, because of Windows 10, we upgraded to Clarion version 10, so naturally Amwin's new version would also be version 10. I'll now show you the new menus in version 10 and what you can do with the new toolbar, as a lot of people don't know this, but you can pick it up and drag and drop it to the side, to the other side, back to the top, wherever it suits you best. If you weren't also aware, you can do this with the Windows 10 taskbar as well. The menus in Amwin have also changed, as we have now incorporated a lot of Amwin's external modules directly into the Amwin program. These are active or grayed out in Amwin's menus depending on your Amwin level and what modules you are licensed for. You can now access from the Amwin menus customer orders, the stock data tool, the bank rack, the general ledger export, a marketing module, These all used to be their own icons, but now in version 10, nearly all of the external modules are within Amwin, so you only need one icon. Point of sale and timesheet, etc. we will still keep separate, as you do want the ability to run that on a separate workstation without also having to have Amwin running. We'll go over some new features in POS and timesheet later on as well. So that's the new menus and toolbar. Now, a really great change, you used to only be able to type 60 characters per line in a job before the text would move to the next line. For a long time, we've had requests to increase this. Well, we have now increased that to 100 characters at 8 font. The reason I say at 8 font, if you use, say, font size 11 like I do, then the end will get cut off and you'll have to move the text to the next line. The larger you make it, the more will get cut off and the more you'll have to move to the next line. If you use font size 11 like I do, then you can still type 60 characters like you used to and it will fit fine. Amwin defaults to size 8, but if you want to use a different size by default, we now have a default text font screen. You can set your default font so whenever you add a text line, it will be size 8, 9, 10, bold, italic, a different color, whatever you like. You can also change the color of the screens, the background and foreground colors, but we don't usually recommend playing with that too much unless you have a specific purpose. Within the program there is now a menu where you can change the font size of the screens in Amwin. This will affect the size of the screens as well. The default size is now 9, it used to be 8, but I work with size 10 as it fits my monitor size the best. If you have a massive big screen, you might want to up the font size, or if you're using Amwin on a small laptop or tablet, you might want to keep your default size to 8. Again, it's whatever suits you best to suit the workstation you are on, as it is a local setting. Local setting meaning it is a setting local to the PC only. Global settings apply to everybody. So if you've got all different workstations with different screen sizes, you can set a different screen font size for each workstation and screen size. Another new feature that anyone who's been using version 10 already would have noticed, we now have a pop-up window tell you whenever a job, purchase order, etc. is already held open elsewhere. It will also tell you which Amwin user has it held, on what computer, and at what time they initially opened it. This makes it so much easier to find the culprit and ask them to close the job so you can work on it. In various places in Amwin, including the Select Job screen and the Scheduler, you can set an auto refresh timer to refresh the screen after a certain time interval, and the screen will then automatically reload the information based on the refresh time that is set. So, if you add a new job to one workstation, Amwin is auto refreshing in the background, so the new job will then show up in every job screen on every workstation. Before, you have had to close and reopen the screen for it to show up on the other workstations, so that's quite handy. If you find that you have a lot of jobs or estimates in progress dating back many months, you can set in Business Options how far you wish the system to look back as a default. This will speed up the display and searching of jobs and estimates significantly. Another new feature we've added, an export function called Send To. It now appears as a blue arrow on many different screens and reports in Amwin, and basically allows you to export out to one of many different file types. PDF, Excel, Word, CSV, etc. and it also allows you to email out. So, if you click this one for example, you can export out the customer master file to whatever you like. Email body messages. This is something people have been asking for. When you email a document out of Amwin, it will fill in a default message for you saying your document is attached, and that's all it says. You might want it to say more than that, however, add a nice greeting for example, your bank account details, whatever you like. The email body message screen is where you can come in and set that default message for every different document type you can email out of Amwin: invoices, estimates, remittances, purchase orders, etc. If you have multi-locations, you can even have a different message for each location. We found this very handy ourselves. Coming soon, you'll even be able to add merge codes to insert things like the customer's name or the invoice number automatically into the email message. We've had some comments from customers who are having trouble focusing reading the information across the records in the Amwin Masterfiles, so we've added Gridlines as a visual aid to help with that. We are now going to have a look at the job invoicing screen. It's changed a bit in version 10. What we've done is we've split the job invoicing screen into two tabs. One tab with the customer details, notes, price rates, service dues, etc. This information is based on the job item or reg number you are working on. And then the second tab has all the job details, the content of the job, adding text, parts, labor, etc. Anyone on version 10 would be very used to this by now, but it's a bit of a change coming from version 9. It was done to unclutter the screens, but also so we could add more information for you to be able to access quickly while doing your job invoicing. They've also added things down the bottom here like voices and persons, but we'll talk more about that later in the series. In the future, not only will there be multiple invoice formats, but you'll also have different job card formats to choose from. There is currently 4 that are in development and will be available soon. I don't know if everybody knows, but for a while now we've had the ability to add a logo image to your letterheads on your invoices, purchase orders, etc. They have now added more places you can add a logo image, like on your POS dockets, on your statements, customer orders, etc. You can now come into the multi-location screen and select what image you want to use for every document in Amwin. If you have multi-locations license, you can set up a different set of images for each location. We'll go over multi-locations later on in the webinar series, so keep an eye out for that one. There are some parameters with the letterheads you have to adhere to, like the ratio of the image, file type, etc. But we have a manual on the ICS website which documents all of that for you. I can also create these header images for you, even create logos if you need a logo for your business. We charge a small fee for that, but if you want that done for you, just let us know. Questions and answers is another new feature in version 10, and what it allows you to do is when someone is doing a job invoice, you can now have a list of questions and answers, like a checklist, for your staff to fill out when they do the job. Without getting too deep into it, it's a brand new feature in version 10 and it provides the ability to set up a list of up to 20 questions that may be relevant for a particular job. The list of questions can have default answers, which can then be changed and selected from a range of choices assigned to each question. You can assign notes against each question if needed as well. For example, a question may be something like, has it been paid yet? Or, have the parts for the job been ordered? Questions could refer to different stages of the job, so the different job stages can be tracked to see if each stage has been completed and who by. It could also just be a general checklist to ask other technicians or the customers relating to the job. Once the job is finalized, you can go back and view the answers and questions under the Customer History option by right-clicking on an invoice and selecting the Questions and Answers option. You'll also see later on when we go through the new mobile apps, Questions and Answers has been incorporated as one of the app's many features. Contact method. This is a new field in version 10 that has been added to the Customer Masterfile screen, allowing you to enter how you wish to contact a specific customer. Some of the options you could choose could be SMS, email, telephone, letter, etc. This is something we've been asked to add for a while, the ability to go into a payment method and set up a percentage charge per payment type. So whether they pay with EPOS, Visa, American Express, you don't have to think about it. You just process the payment, pick the payment type, and all these charges, etc. will automatically be set for you. We've also added the ability to process a cash out, so whether you are finalizing a point of sale, a customer orders, or a regular job invoice, you can process any cash out as you do the payment. Vouchers and gift cards have been around for a while, but not a commonly used feature, so we just wanted to bring some attention to it. Some examples of where you would use vouchers are when you give someone 10% off their next service, or spend $1,000 and we'll give you a $50 gift card for next time. Or maybe you have a Christmas special, buy 2 get 1 free, those sort of things. If you'd like to know more about it or get some training on how it all works, fill out your checklist with vouchers ticked and send it back to us or give us a call and we'll help you out further. You might already be using the source field, but in version 10 we've added the subsource field, which allows you to identify a subsource for a customer. For example, you might have a source called advertising with a subsource of Yellow Pages, Google, newspaper, radio, etc. Alternatively, the source might be newspaper and the subsource might be a range of different newspaper types. The additional delivery addresses button that's under the Deliveries tab is now much more easily accessible via the Contacts button on the main tab of the Customer Master File. Not sure if many people even know you can have multiple delivery addresses, but this allows you to have all the contact details for Fred from sales at the warehouse, Jill from purchasing, or even just Tom at the office, and just have a phone number. It doesn't even have to be a full delivery address. The contacts window allows you to have as many contacts as you need for the one customer and now have them more easily accessible. Bank details for security reasons have been moved to the Accounts tab, but now they've also added this tick which quickly shows you if this customer has any bank details saved. The advantage of having any sensitive information in the Accounts tab is by using our operator security control levels, you can set who has access to the Accounts tab and who doesn't. Security control levels is another feature that not everybody knows about and is not something we are covering in our webinar series, but if you'd like some more information on security control levels, just make a note down the bottom of your checklist. There are some customers that you may not wish to print part numbers on their invoices. You can set in the Accounts tab of the Customer's Master File whether you want to print part numbers for this customer. There is a global setting for all customers, or you can even turn this on and off each time you print an invoice. I don't know who knows about this, but for a long time we've had a button you can click and it will take you to Google Maps for that address, both in Customers and Supplier Master Files. We now have a field in the Deliveries tab where you can put in the Geographic Information System, or GIS for short, location, which is the exact pinpoint location. This can be either the coordinates or plus code from Google. This is handy for more remote addresses and addresses that don't come up in Google searches. Amwin has done this for a long time, but not many people know about it. You can clone a supplier to a customer or vice versa, a customer to a supplier. So, if you have a supplier who has now become a customer, or you have a new customer who is also a new supplier, you can just hit this button and it will create a new customer with the same code, address, phone numbers, etc. copied across for you, saving you double entering everything. In version 10, they have just moved this button to the side here and made it easier to find. This is a good one. Forever people have said to us, I just invoiced a customer, but then realized, oh no, I forgot to add a $300 part to the invoice. Now, I either have to invoice them for that part separately, or issue a credit note and a new invoice. That can get messy and confusing. The good news is now, as long as you haven't marked the invoice paid, you can just right-click it and delete it. Amwin will reverse the invoice right out, like it never happened. Well, almost like it never happened, as there will be a record in the log file. Before you delete this invoice, however, hit the clone button and clone the invoice back to an unfinalized job. This will save you having to redo the invoice. Now delete the incorrect invoice and it's gone. Go to the new job you've just cloned, add the part you forgot, and finalize it again. Send the customer one invoice, no messy credit trail or second invoice. Reoccurring Invoices is another great feature. We have been using it internally for many years, but now we finally let you use it. What it does is if you invoice a customer every month, say a monthly forklift hire, so you create an invoice like normal, but instead of having to type JOB for a normal job or EST for an estimate, Reoccurring Invoices have REC. What it does is once you finalize the job into an invoice, it leaves the job there, ready to be finalized again next month. So you don't have to retype it up each month, you just finalize it. What you can also do at the start of each month is open up the Reoccurring Invoices window and tag the reoccurring invoices you want to process. And in the click of a button, you can invoice multiple monthly invoices at once. This saves a lot of time if you have a bunch of monthly invoices you send out every month like we do. Okay, that's enough for today. I hope you've enjoyed the first of our webinar series. If you did, please leave a like on the video so we know to continue making more content like this, and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future videos. There's much more to come in our webinar series, including more new features in version 10, as well as many more of Amwin's underused modules and what's coming in the future. If you have any questions from today's webinar, don't forget to fill out your checklist and send it back to the ICS team and we'll get you what you need. Thank you for joining us and we'll see you again next time.